Okay, so here we are. Hi, everyone, for today's Behind the Bar talk with Christine Wiseman, who's based down in Southern California in Los Angeles. I had the opportunity to meet her in the fall when I went on the Great Monte Lobos trip. And my first encounter with her was actually on the other side of the bar as she was slinging up drinks at Limantor. And it was crazy and insane. And I was just like, who the hell is that? And then from there on, from the trip, just had a lot of fun and bonding. And we got to play around with crazy cocktail names and what that would look like. And when I, was looking to bring on different bartenders, and specifically a West Coast bartender, I was like, oh, I'm going to reach out to Christine. She would be great. Personality and everything like that. And just as I was getting ready to reach out to you, you posted on your Facebook page that you were going to be on Jimmy Kimmel doing a cocktail demo. And I sent a message and I was like, well, I think that answers my question. I can never afford you. You're on Jimmy Kimmel. Have a good time. But here she is with us. So all of that was a big, huge introduction. I'm very excited to have Christine here, who's been behind the bar at Broken Shaker, is a Tales of the Cocktail Bartender of the Year nominee, and is known throughout the industry with her just incredible ability in building bar programs and really playing with different flavors. So with that note, hi, Christine.
Wow. It's so amazing to just listen to so many nice things being said about you. Thank you. It's so good to see you. And thank you for having me. And yeah, that trip was definitely something so special. And again, so much time spent in the car as well, in the van, that we were able to have great conversations and drink and just chill, when typically those types of things, you're go, 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 go.
So cried a cocoa together,
Yeah, it was a really nice trip, and it was a special time. So it was really great to meet you, and definitely I kept going, man, I'm like, Corey, Susan is awesome. just dying laughing the whole time. And so I appreciate your energy and your knowledge of the spirit and knowledge of the Mexico and Oaxaca, and always asking so many insightful questions, and really being very respectful of the heritage, which is something that I find very admirable. So thank you for that as well. I think it's very important that culture is treated with utmost respect, and Oaxaca holds a very, very special place in my heart. I've been there a couple of handfuls of times, and each time it just gets better and better. And for those of you who are watching and listening, if when it's time to go again, you need to really go. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place, and the people are so welcoming and so wonderful, and just want to feed you and teach you about mezcal and so many things. So but if we want to get started, I can go.
I was going to say, until we can go to Oaxaca, show us what you got.
Yeah. So, I'll give you a little bit of background about me as well. I have really only been bartending for about 8 years. And prior to that, I was actually working in kitchens. I was running kitchens and working with different chefs and creating flavors in food and creating menus and things like that. And I was a bartender a million years ago at Outback Steakhouse, about 20 years ago, when we were making Lynchburg lemonades and pouring the Wallaby Darn out of the frozen machine. And so I had never bartended really in the cocktail world. And after I left working in kitchens, I was looking to open a restaurant with my friend. And in the meantime, I was like, yeah, I'm going to bartend to make some money on the side. How hard can this be? And it turns out it was actually really hard. And somebody by the name of Todd Thrasher in DC, I talked him into hiring me for some reason into one of his cocktail bars. And I didn't even know how to make an old fashioned at that point. And so they really took me under their wing and began teaching me, the basics. And so, and then I moved to LA. And then I worked for Michael Vataggio at Inc. And from there, the chefs there took me and began teaching me so many wonderful, beautiful things about all of this fresh, wonderful produce that we have here in Southern California, and, you know, how to like build flavors, you know, from fresh, you know, pantry items and things like that. So that also was a really like big, momentous time in my career. And now I'm at Broken Shaker, which we have a rooftop pool bar, and I miss it so much. I'll see you soon. So up there on the roof, I really, I create a lot of flavors based on our city. And, you know, I live in Thai Town. Koreatown is like one of my favorite places to go and shop and to eat. And I mean, there's, you know, great Indian food. I mean, you name it, it's here, and it's the best, as far as I'm concerned. And so I really began like picking up like different flavors from there, and things that like interest me. And so, but one of my biggest selling cocktails was kind of like a little sort of Thai, you know, inspiration. So we're gonna make that later as well. But yeah, but we'll get started, and I'm just gonna kind of like take you from the beginning stages of a cocktail to make, you know, all the prep that you need to have for a cocktail, and then we're gonna make a cocktail. But first, I didn't get the nickname Shooters without a certain reason why, and so I feel like we all just need to do a little shooter.
Do
so
a little, I have
a little cheeky, you know, just a little, you know, just a little warm up. Let's a little palate warm up.
I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna like go ahead. I'll be right back because I need one.
Oh my gosh. Well, we should wait. I'm thinking, but I'll give you a little rundown of what we are going to do today, and we'll start like by talking about like cutting citrus and juicing and how to use all of the parts of the citrus, and talk about making some syrups, and we're going to talk about batching some cocktails, and we're going to make some homemade salt as well. So and with that, Susan is back. Cheers to everybody out there. Thanks for joining. Mm-hmm. Okay, so first things first, we are going to juice some limes. And so I'll kind of show you, I have some things done here first, but I took all of the peels. I peeled all my citrus first, and then that way it leaves just the husk here to juice. And so my the one thing, you know, the shape is a little bit it's a little bit confusing because you think you want to put it inside like this, but to get the most citrus, like in your hand pressed juicer, you actually want it to put it upside down, so that way you can get all of the juice and it doesn't splash you in the face, because citrus in your eyes, not fun. So you just give that a little press, and I am putting it right into a strainer as well, just to go ahead and get all of the pulp out. And I'm gonna do enough to get a cocktail here ready for us whenever we're ready to juice. But the reason why I kept those peels is because that you can make a really fun syrup called oleo saccharum, which I think it literally means like oil of the, it means oils of something. I can't remember the rest of it. But so then, so now I have some citrus here. So I'm gonna let that sit to the side. And so I have all my peels here. And then you just simply like add some sugar to give it a cover. And then you will kind of just muddle that a bit together, and then let that sit anywhere from 3 hours to a full day. The longer you let it sit, the more flavor you're going to extract from it. So the sugar is going to start pulling the oils out of it, and you can kind of give it and like keep it covered, and you can like give it a little mash here and there if you want. You can also add lemon peels, orange peels, and then once, and then after those few hours, then you really just like strain it through and press all of the solids, and you're going to get a really bright citrus syrup that you can use like in a gimlet or, you know, in your margaritas to kind of pull more of that lime flavor. And that way you're using the whole lime and not really putting any to waste. And then I'm not going to get into this, but I'll put in the chat later. It's a website it's called Trash Tiki, and they put in a lot of really great recipes of items that you can reuse. And one of the things being a lime stock, that if you have access to citric acids and malic acids, they do a full recipe that you can also use your lime husk after you juice, after you've taken the peels, and then you can further make a lime stock that you can again use. Like, it's always like and then you can mix it with like a 50% fresh lime juice to the lime stock as well, and that will give, the way you're kind of using everything and using less limes.
You can tell you worked in a kitchen, because nothing goes to waste.
Nothing goes to waste, you know, and that is like one big thing. Even at Broken Shaker, you know, we are so lucky to have a really great kitchen as well, attached downstairs in our lobby. And again, we all use items, you know, cohesively together. So it's always so cool. Like, I mean, to be able to go into the kitchen and find like random things. And I fermented the limes, I've fermented Meyer lemons before, and made a really dope fermented Meyer lemon cordial. But you literally just, with that, you put some salt in that and seal up those husks as well, and then let that sit for 5 to 7 days, and then it blends. You just add a little bit more. I've added more citrus to that, and fresh citrus, and blended it, and it gives it this like such a beautiful flavor from the salt, and like pulling out all of that flavor and then blending it, because then the husks are really soft. So you just blend it really fine, and you've got this like really great syrup. And I have not done it with limes, but I've done it with Meyer lemons, which is great.
Okay.
And then also I see there's a chat button, so people can ask questions, right? Is that?
Yep. And I'll go ahead and monitor that, so you don't have to.
Okay,
you
cool.
don't have to worry about it.
Cool.
So,
any questions that you have, also, you can reach out to Susan, or you can follow me on Instagram at DramaWise and ask me any questions as well. So so we have our citrus, which is going to be obviously the base of our cocktail. Now we are going to do our lime garnishes. And also the lime will be beneficial to helping us get some salt on that glass as well. So so a couple of things. So you have wedges and you have wheels. Wheels, I find, are more for decoration, and wedges are more for use. Like if you need to add another little splash of citrus into your cocktail as well. So I always cut the bottom, cut the edges off of mine, and then that way it's easy and more stable to hold, and so that way the lime is not slipping out of your grip. So we're gonna do the wedges. So I'm gonna cut this just right in half. I'm going to do a little slit right down in the middle here, and that's how you get your wedges to stay right on the edge of your glass. And then just give that, so cut it on the side, and then I'll cut on this side. Always keep your hands to another, like kind of, my fingers are in it because I don't feel, you know, I'm not scared of the knife, but always keep your fingers pointed down and around. So that way, if you see when you're going down, you're just going down your knuckles instead of like keeping your fingers out, where you could slip, because these can get really oily as well. And you always want to keep your citrus face down, so that also you have a better grip on it as well. So we have our wedges here.
Yep.
And
hey,
then I'm also
Christine,
going to,
sorry to interrupt. We are wondering if you can tilt your camera a little bit to get more of a view of your cutting board there. There we go. Sorry.
There we go. Okay, great. There we go. So I'll just do that again. And then also like, I mean, again, you can, if you want to clean up your citrus right there, you can like kind of take the little pith off of the ends right there. But, and then another like some other terms that you may hear are like people building recipes, you may hear the term half moon, which so this will be the half moon. And so now we have now we're just cutting in the circle part right here, and then you have these little like half guys. So I use the half moons more for like oranges and grapefruits since they're a little bit bigger, but just in case like you hear that term, that's what a half moon is. And then we'll do this part. We'll do one more lime here, and it's just going to be the wheel. And it's always great to keep these about, I guess that's about a 1/4 inch thick, and keep, oh, whoops, right there. It's about a 1/4 inch thick, and keeping them nice. And obviously, if you have a mandolin, that's always the best way to do it. They give perfect. Even I can't get that.
Yeah.
You know, get the wheels cut perfectly like that. But that will lead us into the next part, because these half moons and these wheels, if we don't use them in the bar, we always dehydrate everything that we don't use at the end of a shift. And then that way we, and then you have dehydrated limes, which are always, you can use all the time. And that will lead us into the next part, is that you can make your own salts. So now we have our lime juice for our margarita. We have some garnishes cut, which whatever we want to use when we go to make our drink. But what we can do at the end of this, if you've cut any lime wheels, you can dehydrate them if you're not going to use them all tonight. And just so by dehydrating your limes, my suggestion is to put on a wire rack on top of a pan, and you can set your oven at 200 degrees and put them in there, and they stay in there anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on how dry you want them to be. Oranges, I suggest going like 6 hours. They're a little bit bigger and a little bit juicier. And so to make a salt, I have one here. I have one here today that is a dehydrated lime and coconut sea salt. And you can do so many different types of salts. You can dehydrate pineapples in there, and then, you know, you can do lemons, which I've done before. You can do oranges, but that I always like to have like a citrus part, a citrus base of my salt. And so I take the dehydrated limes, and for these, I like them to be really dry, because when you go to blend up limes, it heats them up and it activates, it makes them moist, brings more moisture back into them. So I take some dehydrated limes and some dried coconut, and blend that all up, blend those together, and then mix it into my salt ratio, which however you want. It's usually 50% salt and then 50% the other items that I put in. And,
do you find it easier to use a blender or to use like a coffee grinder? Does it just depend on how much you're making?
Yeah, I think it depends on how much you're making. I mean, in kitchens, I use like the big Robo Cubes, but I find that spice grinders actually work the best, because that really blends the salt up, it blends the limes up really well. Mm-hmm. And then you just like break them apart, and like you can break them in half like really easily. and I wouldn't like try to shove them in there whole and do them, but and then you add the coconut in as well. But from that, you can, I mean, I think it's really fun to like play around. You can like, I mean, any type of salt that you want, honestly. Like, we make our own like spicy salt, which we put, you know, a cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, a little bit of celery powder, a little bit of onion, a little bit of garlic powder, and salt, and it's like becomes this like really umami, like, you know, spicy salt that goes on our spicy margs. And then I've made some with like dried plums, and there's just like so many. You can like dried rosemary and salt together. Again, you're getting like such a different an herbal note with it. You can also cook with these salts too. I mean, it's like kind of like a secret ingredient, like cooking in with those things, and it, you know, really adds a lot of flavor to any meal.
Well, I know with my teenager Isaiah, he has a secret ingredient in his fried chicken, and it's sal de gusano, and that was totally on his own that he started like cooking with sal de gusano, and people are like, "Oh my God, what's that? What's that? What's that?" And he's just like, "It's the secret ingredient." So, you know,
yeah, I don't think most people would probably love that.
No,
know what it is.
Yeah. But I mean, but it was like we had those salts out at the Palenque at Monte Lobos. Those, I mean, and one was the avocado salt, and then I can't remember
so
what. Yeah, I mean, but it was just like, and the color was so incredible.
There was a hibiscus salt, I think.
Oh yeah, the hibiscus salt. Yep.
Yeah.
But they were amazing and added just a depth of flavor to what we were eating that was incredible. And drinking.
Yeah, I mean, and also like your mezcal shots, you know, like again, you sprinkle a little bit right on top of your orange, and it's like a whole nother, you know, it's like, it really adds to so many depths of flavor that mezcal has. Anyways, it like just pulls out like certain notes. So great. So now I have so many things. In this delicious cocktail. I'm so excited to make it. So we have our citrus and the garnish and salt, and now I want to talk about syrups. And so in your syrups, there are like your base sugars, honey, agave, and sugar, and you make it simple. My suggestion, you know, to keep it easy on the sweetness, for your simple syrups, I always do a 50-50, equal parts sugar to water. And then you have like obviously your rich simples, which that means 2-to-1, so 2 parts sugar to 1 part water, which is going like demerara that goes in your old fashions are typically made that way. But agave, I always go 1-to-1, agave to honey, and then also with honey, I do 2 parts honey to 1 part water. It just, for me, it's the 3 parts to 1 part, which a lot of people do, is just a little too intense for me. But I love honey. My preference is not honey in cocktails. I don't know why. It's such a weird thing. Like I could eat honey by the spoonful, but I don't like it in cocktails. But so basically, again, what you can do, this is the part where you can really create a lot of depth in your cocktail by adding, you know, 2 really great ingredients in a syrup. And that way you're not adding more liqueurs or, you know, kind of, you know, mudding up things. Also a suggestion that I have here too, this was always like a really big one for me while cooking, is a flavor Bible. And so this is the vegetarian version of it, and it's probably one of like my biggest like I guess, assets to like making cocktails and like trying to create flavors, especially if I'm kind of in a slump and I'm like, ah, man, this thing, it just like needs one other thing. And like, I can't, what do I put in it? What do I do? And then I sometimes go to the flavor Bible and like pick a note in the cocktail that I have, and just to see what kind of weird thing I can, add into it. So I mean, even for cooking, I mean, there's so many great recipes in it, and great chefs like giving their flavor profiles of like their most famous dishes and things like that. So I highly recommend that one.
And it's the Vegetarian Flavor Bible. That's
Yes.
the name of the
Yeah.
book. Okay.
Yeah. So today so as I was saying, so like the cocktail that I'm going to make, it has a lime leaf, it's a lime leaf agave. So basically I've taken my agave and I did 1-to-1, so 1 part agave to 1 part water. And then I added, and then I just like kind of bring that heated up together and like a real light simmer, and I'll throw in some lime leaves. And a few lime leaves go a long way, and you can get them fresh in your Thai market, or they also have them frozen. I always suggest frozen because like again, 3 to 4 really goes a very long way. So you can do a small bag of lime leaves will keep for a year in your freezer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a really long time. They hold up really well. And so I did the equal parts, and then I just throw in a few lime leaves and then let that simmer together for like 15 minutes. And you can smell it right away, and it was so insane and amazing. And that is how I did that one. But that's for the syrup that we're going to use for today. But some fun things that I like to do, I like to throw in something herbal with like a fruit. So like prickly pear and rosemary was like another really big one that which was one of our biggest sellers at Brook and Shaker, was a prickly pear rosemary syrup. It was just like, did a puree and then added a rosemary, and then blended it with the rosemary syrup, which again, equal parts sugar to water, and then just put in some rosemary to really, just for the aromatics of it. And again, those things take like 10-15 minutes to pull flavor from. And honeys, I have like so many jasmine bushes, like fresh blooming jasmine everywhere around me. And it's like so intoxicating and it's so wonderful. And I have some here. I always pick it every day. Like I go out, I always pick it and keep it on my desk with me. It's insane. You can if you have some old strawberries or old blueberries or blackberries or whatever in your fridge that are getting ready to go bad, blend them with the simple syrup, and then bring that to a boil or to a simmer, and then just throw in some of that fresh jasmine, and then there now you have a fruit and a floral syrup. And so there are so many different ways to build flavor in a a simple margarita version. Then you have a million different cocktails that you can make by just staying on the same recipe, which is always really cool.
Wow.
And then so now our syrup is done, and we can talk about making cocktails. And one recipe that I've always, for me, that is such a go-to for any cocktail is just a classic sour spec, and that is 2 parts of spirit to 1 part citrus to 3/4 part sugar. And so again, in that simple recipe, you can have, there's so many different ways that you can go. You can split base that two parts in your cocktail. So you can do, you know, whatever you want. You could do, you know, a whiskey and, I don't know, I was going to say whiskey and tequila together, or whiskey and mezcal, but I've never done that. Oh, I've done a white whiskey and mezcal.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, because the white is not as aged, but what you can do with that spec is find like old crazy liqueurs that you may have sitting around that you don't really use. It could be, I mean, God, some of these things here, you know, are crazy, but you can add, you know, if you have a little bit of Aperol or Grand Marnier, or today I'm going to use Clement Mahina into our cocktail. Another really good one is Shinola. It's a passion fruit liqueur, and it's like it
Wow.
adds just a little bit into a cocktail. It goes so far. So that's where you can like really play around with creating your cocktails, is by the 2, 1, 3/4, and then your two, it can be, you know, whatever parts that you want. My suggestion for like a liqueur is usually just like a half part to 1.5 of spirit, and your citrus, you know, still keeping it at that 1 ounce, and then your 3/4 from your sugar can be your strawberry jasmine or your lime leaf agave, or, you know, whatever honey you just made. So there's, you know, at this point now you could probably make, you know, 20 different cocktails at your house by just a few ingredients that you have, you know. And so it's really fun to play around, because, you know, again, everyone's palates are different. You know, maybe someone wants a little bit more fruit, or someone wants more like vegetal. Like, again, I mean, even vegetal things you can do, you know, if you have like a little bit of cucumbers, you know, now you can muddle some fresh cucumbers in that cocktail as well, or juice them and add that into a syrup as well, which if you do juice like a celery or cucumber, or honeydew, cantaloupe, like things like that, I always just add just sugar. So like that becomes your water. So if I'm going to make like a cucumber simple, that cucumber juice replaces the water. So now I'm doing equal parts cucumber juice to sugar. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Because
that makes sense.
the water content in like some things are like a little bit more. So it's about and not cooking it, because you want to keep that like fresh, but the sugar also helps preserve it as well, so it can stay a little bit longer.
One of my most favorite cocktails in San Francisco at a place called Lolo was a celery juice-based mezcal cocktail, and I've always fallen on the savory side and not so much on the sweet side of cocktails. So for me, I was just like, oh, this is my jam. And it's so healthy. It's cleansing. It's celery juice, you know, but it just had the layers of flavor to it that were really good.
Yeah, I mean, with, you know, any agave base, I mean, to be honest, like if you had to hold a gun to my head and ask me if I had to pick one spirit to always drink, to drink forever, the rest of my life, it would be agave-based spirits. I mean, it's so versatile, and it's so delicious, and gives you energy. And
but it plays well with every flavor variation, you know, and there are not a lot of spirits out there that do that. And for, you know, which is why it became a favorite of bartenders, because it's like you can really build a huge cocktail program around one spirit.
I mean, and right now, and I'm sure it's the same in Northern California, but in Southern California, it's the biggest call. that we
Mhm.
have. I think it's surpassing even vodka now, which is crazy. I mean, the fact that so many people know about mezcal is really becoming is becoming awesome, and people love it. In the beginning, it was not that way,
Yeah.
but now it's becoming really big in LA specifically. So we have all of our things made to make a drink. So I'm gonna make one. If you want to make one along with me, to enjoy, and also, so now from our lime wedges earlier, to get those salts on there, you just give your glass a little rim with the citrus, and you can just tap that right on and have your nice little salt rim. Oh God, this drink is so good. I haven't
Just
had it in so long.
torture us. It's fine.
I'm so
Like
excited.
we'll enjoy you, drinking your drink.
So, and so now another thing that, to make a cocktail, you always want to go the least expensive items first. So if in that way, the reason why you do it that way is because in case you mess something up, you added accidentally too much sugar, you spilled something in it, you haven't wasted the good stuff. You can throw the sugar and the citrus down the drain, but don't want to throw some the expensive stuff in. So I have my 1 ounce of lime juice, and then I'm doing 3/4 of the lime leaf agave. And this again is just like a little 1/2 ounce of this a coconut liqueur. And then I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of mezcal, Montelobos, actually today. So now you are going to shake. We all have different styles of ice at your house. If you want to be fancy and you have the big rocks and you're going to strain over top, you don't have to put as much ice. But for me, I like to shake and dump my cocktails. Living in LA, going through the drought, we kind of all tried to think of different, we had to come up with different ways to preserve water and not go through so much ice and things like that. So I really have kind of fallen into love and for speed of shaking and dumping. And that is because you're using less ice. You're not straining over fresh ice and dumping ice. Again, for me, it's about trying to use all the ingredients and use and preserve other ones. Mm-hmm. So I'm a shake and dumper. And again, speed, at the bar, I want people to have a good drink. So you don't want to shake as long. I'm going to show this right here. But so when you go to shake your cocktail, and you're going to put the smaller part into the larger part, you're going to keep it at an angle. So if you see how it's not just straight up and down like that, and that it's at an angle. So the reason why that is because it'll make it easier to open when you're done shaking. So again, with ice, it's been sitting out for a minute. There's also going to be more water on it as well. So it's gonna add more dilution into the cocktail faster. So this is going to be a really quick shake. And that way it just kind of incorporates the ingredients and gets that nice froth from the lime juice. And I'm just going to dump it right in. And that way you don't have to dump and all the things. And now you can decorate, you can garnish your cocktail however you want. You can the lime wedge. You can have your lime wheel if you want, in case somebody needs a little bit more citrus. But I find that the 1 ounce of citrus is always going to be plenty. And there you go. That's it.
Wow.
And I wish that you could all could have this with me.
It looks very delicious. I will say, I'm intrigued by the coconut because I never would have thought to put coconut with mezcal. So
Yeah, again, you know, I mean, it's my favorite ingredient ever. Like I'm obsessed with coconut, and so I didn't think that either. And you know, like I don't really see that much coconut, and so again, the Thai, you know, my Thai inspiration kind of comes from, you know, the lime leaf and coconuts, and again, but it's also really it's a super simple cocktail.
yeah,
But there's a lot of layers in there. You have the mezcal, you know, coconut, you have the lime leaf, then you have this like dehydrated lime, coconut, you know, salt on the side. So it's like and you're getting these like other flavors like in it, and it was called the coconut case.
the coconut case. That's
I also
awesome.
I mean, one of my secrets, and everybody on here, don't tell a lot of people this, but one of my secrets in naming cocktails is that I'll put in an ingredient that's in it, or like something that I'm thinking of, and then just put in a Google search and then write meme and see what's out there, and just like find hilarious things, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect for this cocktail. That's one of my that's how I name cocktails, because it's the hardest part.
Well, as you know, I love nothing more than to come up with crazy names for cocktails. So and then build a cocktail around it.
It's like
that's a name.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just have to have like the Susan cocktail generator, you know, app, like naming it would be awesome.
Don't put me in charge of the ingredients. I'll just be like, no, this would be a really cool name.
That's half of it, you know, because, you know, a lot of people also buy the cocktails based on my name as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the one last thing that I will leave you all with, before any questions that you may have, is batching a large a number of cocktails together. So, you know, if right now, if you're on this cocktail and you're hearing me rambling on for 30 minutes, you probably want to have your second cocktail by now, because, you know, you probably need to get a little more intoxicated to listen to me. But it's super easy. So you just kind of multiply the amount of drinks that you want to do, and from that recipe, the 2-1 3/4. And so, you know, if we were going to do 5 margaritas, then we would have put in, oh God, math, because hold on, let me just do the math.
Multiply.
Times 1.5, so it's 5 times 1.5. Oh God, this is embarrassing. I'm sorry, everybody. My math.
I'm like,
so
I'm
7.5 ounces of mezcal and 5 ounces of your lime juice. But the important part about this, about batching a cocktail, and that you also don't have to shake, and you can just pour over ice, is adding that dilution to the batch. And so what that does, so my recommendation is anywhere from 10 to 20% of the full amount that you have. So if you have, let's say you're doing 5 cocktails, so that's almost 19 ounces of liquid that you have. So then I would just take the 19 ounces and then figure out like that. I would say I would start off with 10%, and then again, depending on the type of ice you have, if you're pouring over a large cube, I would go higher towards the 20. If you have kind of like really just like your average, you know, ice that you have in the trays, I would stay at 10%, because those melt faster. So then you're adding in about 2 ounces of water into that batch. And so and then that way you just have it all together, and then you can just pour it over ice and enjoy it even that much quicker. Which, you know, when I do large events, I add the dilution in so that I can just pour over ice and people can have drinks.
Yeah,
It's not going to be as frothy, but it's going to be the dilution is going to be perfect, and it'll still be delicious.
Yeah. We have a comment from one of the participants, which is saying, yeah, I've heard around a 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce per cocktail of dilution. So that would, yeah, make sense.
Yeah, that's right about that. Yeah, I would, again, depending on the type of ice you have, I would always kind of go towards the lower end.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, you know, especially right now with the relaxation of some of the ABC rules, the fact that bars and restaurants are able to sell like batched cocktails to go and be putting them into liter jars or whatever is pretty amazing. And I know I actually did that for Cinco de Mayo, the first time I've ever really celebrated in a mezcal way for Cinco de Mayo. Was, you know, getting this a cocktail package, and it came with, you know, the liter or 750 milliliter cocktail mix, and it was a hibiscus mix with a bottle of mezcal, and then Topo Chico, and it was delicious. I mean, you know, and it was like, you know, this was great, and so I was able to have cocktails for days, you know, and on top of that, the non-alcoholic drinkers in the house just did the hibiscus and Topo Chico. So
that's a really great idea to do that separately. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and then a lot of these, you know, syrups and things a lot of the syrups that you're making, you know, that you can play around with are great examples of like doing things for, you know, NA beverages as well. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you could just add a little bit more citrus and, you know, put in an orange juice or, you know, Topo Chico, and you have a nice, like, refreshing drink.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing with syrups too is you can use them for cooking. And you know, so it's not, to have syrups on hand in your refrigerator is not a bad thing at all. And
they usually last up for about a month.
Yeah.
I would say like that 3 to 4 weeks is probably, you know, like the 4th week is probably going to be stretching it, but you can get a lot of length out of syrups.
Yeah.
The ones that go bad first are the ones that aren't really processed. So like your vegetable, your cucumbers, like if, you know, like a cucumber syrup or celery syrup, like those go faster.
Yep. No, I mean, it's true. And I just wanted to back up and say, I really appreciated how you went through the slicing of the citrus and the full use of it. I remember I was humiliated one time at an annual party I used to throw. And, you know, my big thing was my famous margaritas. And a bartender came and saw how I had sliced my limes. And he was just like, well, what the hell are you supposed to do with those limes? Are you supposed to squeeze them into a glass? Where are you supposed to put that? And I was like, and then he gave me a lesson on how you actually had to slice limes to be useful. So it's the simple things sometimes. And I think just a lot of us need the refresher on this is how you actually have to do it. And this is why. But anyhow.
Great. Well, I hope that I got some useful information for everybody, and that it wasn't too much or not enough, or but like I said, if you have any questions, Susan can reach out to me, or you can feel free to reach out, and happy to answer.
Yeah, or who's got some questions now on this? We've got our traps. Anything for Christine? Well, I mean, I do have a question, because I think, you know, it is an interesting challenge to be working at a hotel bar, and how much the concept of a hotel bar has changed, especially in the last 10 years, that they are now destination places, not only for the traveler, but also for the people in the city. What's like between your local crowd that comes and between kind of the traveler crowd, do you see differences in what people are ordering, or the questions that they're asking, or what it is they want?
The great thing is Broken Shaker has such a really great following. So I think we're pretty well known in the cocktail industry. So so when people come, I think they are already kind of expecting, and Yelp obviously and Instagram. So you're giving people like already what the reality of like what they're going to get when they get there. So people are pretty well versed of when they get there. And people are ordering about, we sell almost probably 70% menu cocktails of our daily average, and which is so awesome and really cool to see. I think 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that wasn't a thing, and now it is. So they want them to be Instagram ready. People want pretty drinks, which I'm happy to oblige. And you drink with your eyes first, right? And eat with your eyes first. And then it's vodka and tequila. So people are looking at the base spirits in the cocktail first in the menu. And then from there, they just kind of like look for some key ingredients. I think that what I try to do is put relatable flavors into like the descriptions, and then that way people understand most of it, and they know that they're like, okay, I see there's a celery in this. Like, I know that, I understand that ingredient, because then I'll also like to put like a couple other things in there that they may never have heard of, which forces people to like ask questions. And, like, it's great to have conversations with people about that. But I would say that it's, vodka, tequila is always first, and mezcal.
And do you have a preference when using agave spirits, whether you're building cocktails with Blanco, Reposado, or even Añejo, or?
Well, my personal drinking preference is nothing aged. I'm not. I'm a purist in that way. Like I'm not really a big whiskey fan, just because of like the aging process. So for me, all agave spirits, my preference is the blancos. But I've done some split bases before, and again, cost-wise, it's expensive. Now, if I'm drinking like a tequila old fashioned, I do prefer like a reposado. So, but I personally stay away from aged agave.
I'm a woman of a certain
Just because
age.
it's so delicious.
Yeah, it is.
It
is. No, but my joke is always, I'm a woman of a certain age, and so therefore things aged in casks cause the flush, so it's crazy. And then we had a question about which coconut liqueur you recommend.
I prefer the Clement Mahina.
Okay.
Right up there.
Clement.
It's there's another one, I think it's called Kalani, and that's also really good. But this is one of the best ones that I've ever had.
No.
Not
and
like
then,
super suntanny lotion.
Yeah. Always fun to drink. And then a question about infusing with either pepper, which I'm assuming is chili pepper, or fruit. Jonathan tried cherry and he really liked that, but do you play around with infusions, or?
I do. I do and I don't. We're like a pretty high volume bar, so sometimes to keep up on that is a little bit hard, and it depends on what you're infusing. I do cereal infusions a lot because they're the quickest. But again, at my house, I have an immersion circulator, like cook sous vide. And so I find that getting infusions are a little bit easier via sous vide extraction, just because you can do it faster and it pulls really well. I think sometimes like letting it sit together. I like doing, and I also like infusions into like vermouths and sherries versus the actual spirit, because again,
I can't tell. Okay.
Oh, am I cutting out?
No. I think it was my connection. Sorry.
Oh, but so I prefer to do infusions with vermouth and sherries, just because you're using like a lower amount of that ingredient, and I always kind of want the main spirit to shine, and so I don't really usually mess around with the actual spirit itself, because I do want that to come through, and so I typically stay in the fortified wine land.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, we recently tried to infuse kumquats and just using vodka, and it was not good.
Yeah. I mean,
I
because
was
again,
like,
so, but also, so what's happening is that the spirits are higher proof, so they're extracting it so much faster and on the lot. And whereas like the fortified wines are lower proof, and so it's kind of just like a little bit more mellow. So like a kumquat, it's like so bitter, right? And so that high proof spirit is pulling all of that really fast and a lot of it. So like next time maybe try a kumquat like vermouth, and you'll like kind of notice like it'll be a little bit softer and nicer.
I was trying to push for a kumquat version of limoncello, and got overruled. But
Sounds delicious.
what do I know?
Well, but you find
do we have
you
any?
do these things.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, you just play around with it,
Yeah.
So yeah, and I have no problem playing around in the kitchen. I have certainly had my cooking disasters of, I wonder what this would taste like. And you try not to use the most expensive ingredients when you're trying something for the first time.
Exactly.
But it's you go with what you have, and it was looking to get rid of cheap vodka. But yeah, when I was going to say a last call for questions here. And so Jonathan is wondering, if you're infusing with vermouth, how long would you think to leave a chipotle pepper in it?
I would kind of start at that hour mark and then keep tasting from there, because depends on how much flavor you want to extract. I always recommend like peppers, no seeds, just because the seeds are going to give a lot to it and fast. So I kind of just suggest starting at an hour and going from there. Especially with peppers. Peppers can be pretty intense.
Yep. Which is why I'm always like, or you could just buy the Ancho Reyes or Ancho Verde, which gives you two great expressions of the Verde is really bright. It tastes like fresh salsa. And then the Ancho is, definitely much more of that smoky flavor. And I really do. I don't want to, you have your bottle of Monte Lobos, and they're also the folks behind Ancho Reyes.
Yeah, the Verde is my fave.
Yeah, I mean, it is delicious. And even just drinking that over ice.
50-50 shots.
Yeah, 50 shots, exactly. All right, do we have any other questions for Christine before we wave off this evening? I'd like to say reminders that tips are always appreciated for your bartender. I put it in the chat, but I will do it again. But her at Christine and then dash Wiseman, Wiseman. So let me type that in. Yes, and I honestly cannot wait until I get to go back to LA, and maybe even like, I don't know, go to the bar, drink on top of a roof, sit by a pool.
Yes, Yes. I'm
Something
looking to
like
be
that.
looking to get back into Oaxaca with you as well. So
Yes, and that too, especially. But Christine, thank you so much for your time. Keeping fingers crossed for you. This year is the year with Tales of the Cocktail, and and that we can celebrate live and in person when that good news comes through.
amazing. Well, thanks, Jill, so much, and
Thank you.
I hope to see you soon. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Mwah. Talk to you later. Bye.